So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. You get back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Tuesday, February 15th. Hope everybody's having a day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Tuesday, February 15th here today, coming off another big night last night in the world of sports. The Brooklyn Nets have won a game. Yes, you have heard that right. The Nets have won. They beat the Sacramento Kings last night and beat them good, beat them bad. And Nets today, as you can see, I got my Julius Erving City Edition jersey on today. Nets were able to top the Kings last night, 109-85, a 24-point victory in what was a much-needed win last night for the Brooklyn Nets, and a very good team win. Seth Curry, Andre Drummond making plays. Curry played really well, showed us why we got him, showed us what he's capable of, really showed why he is one of the high-end shooters in the league. Making shots, making them late, making some big ones, catch and shoot, on the run, dribble to his right, step back, right, go to his right, switch to his left, shoot it, off screen, boom, was excellent. Was a lot of fun. And last night watching that Nets game, it was the first time, and really since this losing streak began, where I was truly sitting there enjoying what I was watching. Because during this 11-game losing streak, this might sound like an obvious answer. Of course, during an 11-game losing streak, you're not going to be happy with what you're watching. You're not going to like what you're seeing. But there are times, maybe sometimes, even if you do lose, where there are some positives to take from each game. There has been no positives to take from this 11-game losing streak. Maybe the only positive is the fact that Cam Thomas has been playing really good. But last night, sitting there, generally watching this offense have a flow, actually watching this team play, together and see the ball getting spread out, seeing the ball movement, it was actually genuinely fun to watch, and I really enjoyed it. And it was last night, for the first time in a long time, us Nets fans, I truly sat there and had fun watching that game. I wasn't sitting there in pain and doing, what is this, what is that, what are we doing? I've been saying what are we doing a lot for the last 11 games. But last night at home, we're able to take care of business, and yes, it's the Kings. They're not a great team by any means. But that's exactly the whole point. You're supposed to beat those teams. Nets did not beat the Kings last time they played them. It was Harden's last game. He played like complete garbage. Rightfully so. He's on the Sixers now. But Seth Curry, Andre Drummond gave us a much-needed boost, and now we can only wait until Kevin Durant comes back, and hopefully Kyrie eventually can play all home games. And now you're starting to really see this team can do great things if they're just healthy and they play with the sense of urgency that they play at. So, Nets get the win last night. Knicks take a really tough loss. Josh Giddey with a triple-double at the Garden. 19 years old. I believe he's 19 years old. I mean, just wild that guys with this type of talent can play this early on in their career. It really is something special to see. So that was wild last night. Thunder beat them in overtime, and yet again today, if you, as an NBA fan, as a fan with that follows New York sports, you're kind of looking today again. What are the Knicks doing? Where are the Knicks going with this? What is Tom Thibodeau doing? And they took a tough loss again last night. So, Nets, Knicks last night. They both have a day off today. Nets are back in action tomorrow on the road against the Knicks. So, Nets, Knicks tomorrow at the Garden. So, both teams off today. They'll be in action tomorrow. Kentucky's on tonight against Tennessee, 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Big game for Kentucky, 4th-ranked team in the nation. And I figure if the Kentucky wins that game, I think tomorrow I'm going to talk about Kentucky and their possibility of ending up as a number 1 seed in the NCAA March Madness. So, I want to get to them, but that'll definitely depend on if they win tonight. Because if they lose tonight, I'm not going to come in here tomorrow and say, "Oh, Kentucky, let's talk about them." No, if they win tonight, I'll definitely talk about it. So, big game on the road tonight for Kentucky. Kentucky against Tennessee. Nets and Knicks both have a day off, and the New York Rangers are back in action tonight, finally. After the 2-week break, Rangers are back in action tonight at the Garden against the Bruins, and the Islanders are up in Buffalo, New York to play the Sabres tonight as they continue their second half of the season, and they continue their road trip that they have been on to start the second half swing of the season. So Rangers back in action tonight. So last night we had both basketball teams. Tonight we'll have both hockey teams. Tomorrow night we'll have both basketball teams against each other in action. So a lot going on in the world of New York sports tonight and into tomorrow. And yeah, I'm happy today. Nets got the win. You see I'm repping the jersey. I'm happy. I'm pumped up. I've been waiting to wear this jersey for so long now because I got it at the start of this 11-game losing streak, and since I got it, they didn't win. So I don't know if it's just the fact that I got the jersey why they didn't win, but I have a Kevin Durant City Edition jersey and then Julius Erving as well, which is the one I'm wearing now. It's tough to see because you can't see the number 32. Got his pop head here as well. Dr. Dre, one of the all-time greats, great player for the Nets, and one of the greatest of all time, and in the Nets history, you could really say he is. He delivered our only championship. It is not an NBA championship. He did deliver us an ABA championship. But, so it's great that. But so I'm very happy today. So let's get to the topics today. Rangers are also on, which I'm happy about. It's been too long without the Rangers. Love watching hockey, love watching the New York Rangers. So they'll be back in action tonight. Let's get to the topics for today's podcast. Probably going to be another about 45 to 50-minute video. Like I said, it's been good. These videos have been good. I've liked them. The long videos, definitely get long. And I've liked kind of just getting to the point, talking about it, and then getting to, the two topics, and again to the New York Sports Update. So the topics for today are Cooper Kupp season recap. I talked about it yesterday. I've talked about it all last week. Going to kind of wrap up the Super Bowl and wrap up everything within the NFL season today. And I want to get to Cooper Kupp and his season recap and his historic season and why I believe that this was the greatest season we've ever seen out of a receiver. And there might be a chance that we don't see another season like this out of receiver again. And I know Calvin Johnson still holds the lead for most receiving yards in a regular season, but what he did in the postseason, the fact that he won a Super Bowl, the fact that he won a Super Bowl MVP. I mean, Calvin Johnson, the year that he had 1,964 yards, the Lions went 4-12 and didn't make the playoffs. This season, on the other hand, Cooper Kupp was dominant in the regular season, dominant in the postseason, and I combined all of his stats together, and I'm going to give you them today and really just take a deep dive into how good his season was and how we might not, and really, we might not see this again for a very long time. So I'll get to that. Going to get to the Nets and the Knicks, going to update both teams, talk about the Nets, and get to the Knicks brutal. Get to the Knicks brutal loss last night. Get to the Knicks and Tom Thibodeau and his embarrassing coaching. And for the Nets, I'm going to talk about them. It was a win, so I don't have so much to say because it was a win. It's nice. I really want to dial in on the Knicks and really just bash them because they've been playing terrible basketball, and Tom Thibodeau deserves a lot of the blame right now. And I'll give you a couple reasons why. Then we'll get to the New York Sports Update coming up. So, Nets and Knicks, both day off. They'll be back in action tomorrow at the Garden against each other, ESPN. And the Rangers-Islanders are back in action tonight. Rangers at home against the Bruins. And the Islanders are up in Buffalo against the Sabres. And Kentucky's on tonight against Tennessee in Tennessee, 9 p.m. Eastern. As Kentucky, being the road warriors they are, continue tonight another hostile environment. 16th ranked team in the nation. And the Kentucky's the 4th, so the favorites going in, gotta hope they win. Should be a good game. So, with all that being said, a lot to get to today on the podcast. And, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. Alrighty, so, obviously, Super Bowl wrapped up on Sunday. By the way, this just goes to show you, I want to talk about the MLB and the lockout and all that stuff. But, just want to make this clear. Today, the numbers came out about how many people watch the Super Bowl. Most watched TV show in 5 years was the Super Bowl this year. Super Bowl 56 this season, Bengals-Rams, got 112.3 million viewers. I mean, really, before I get into Cooper Kupp, it all kind of intertwines with each other, but another crazy year for the NFL. Another season of them dominating the sports world. And for baseball, yet again, it's your daily reminder that baseball needs to get their act together or else they're going to be dead. The sport is almost dead as it is. It's going to be really in a dark place if they don't get this lockout figured out. But now to the Cooper Kupp point. So the Super Bowl is crazy, $112.3 million. In front of the $112.3 million, Cooper Kupp put on a show, had 2 touchdowns, 92 yards, 8 catches, like I talked about yesterday. Really had a great season. And we always see this in sports, right, where players will have historic years. We saw it a couple years ago with Patrick Mahomes, had the 50-touchdown season, was historic. We saw him go, all that great stuff, and he was legendary. We saw, we've seen some of Tom Brady's season. We've seen Tom Brady go to a new team, win a Super Bowl in his first season. That's just something that's going to go down in history. We saw Tom Brady's 22-year, 2-decade run in the NFL. Obviously he's retired and it's come to the end. Who knows if he comes back? We'll see how that all goes. But we've seen some historic things in sports. We really have. And this season was yet again another historic moment, a historic milestone, an historic season by a player in Cooper Kupp in the NFL. And what we saw this year out of Cooper Kupp was wild, crazy, fun to watch, and really just something that we might not see again. Or maybe not again, but we might not see in definitely a little bit. I can't sit here and today and say next season Davante Adams is going to be dominant, going to have over 2,400 receiving yards on the season and win a Super Bowl and win Super Bowl MVP. I can't say that right now. I can't say that about many receivers because what we saw this year out of Cooper Kupp was simply remarkable. And look, going into this season, Cooper Kupp was no star-studded receiver. I mean, he's out of Eastern Washington. He's 28 years old. This was his 5th year in the league. He hasn't really been that superstar caliber, really good receiver. He's been a solid asset for the Rams. He's been a really nice addition. He's been a real solid receiver. He has been, don't get me wrong. But he hasn't been historically good. He hasn't been putting up numbers like this. First year of his career, he had 869 receiving yards. Second year, he only played 8 games, had 566. Third season in 2019, had a really good year, 1,161. Going into the season, that was his best year by far. Then last year, he had 974 yards. So a little bit of a down year from the previous year in 2019. And then you look at this year, and it was completely amazing. And I think a big reason why that was because of Matthew Stafford and the Rams bringing him in. And sometimes we see this a lot where receivers and quarterbacks, not only does the quarterback benefit, but the receiver benefits as well. And we've seen it a ton of times in the NFL. Right? Not only does a quarterback benefit by having a legit number 1 receiver, but a receiver also benefits from having a legit number 1 really good quarterback. Because Cooper Kupp's first 4 years in his career, he was with Jared Goff. And Jared Goff, sure, he had moments, and they got to the Super Bowl, and I know they lost to the Patriots and stuff, but even that year they got there, he only played 8 games. So it wasn't like he was a big factor in the regular season. He only played 8 games that year and only had 55 targets and 40 catches. Lowest number, second lowest was 62. So completely down in the dumps that year for Cooper Kupp, despite them making the Super Bowl. And now you put Matthew Stafford into the mix, and what Cooper Kupp did this year was amazing. And I kind of just want to take a deep dive into some more of the numbers about how good he was. Because like I said, going into this season, he was not regarded as one of the top 5 elite receivers in the league. He was kind of regarded as a solid asset for your fantasy team. He's a nice piece. But I don't think anybody saw this season coming from Cooper Kupp, especially when you have the tandem of Kupp, Robert Woods. You add on to the fact they got Tyler Higbee and Matthew Stafford. You got a lot of other options. So it's not like he's the true number 1 on the team. Now he is. But it's like they also had other assets to look at. And it really is great to see if you're a Rams fan for years going forward that Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp really built that bond this year. And now going into next season and years on, they can continue to build upon that bond and continue to build upon the chemistry that they built this year. Because this season was historic for Cooper Kupp. And there's no other way to put it. An historic season. And I've always liked Cooper Kupp. He's a very good guy. He's humble. He just does everything he can to help the team win. You need him to run short. He can run short. And that's something, too. He's a very dynamic receiver. He can come out of the jet sweep. He ran a couple times this season. He actually had 4 carries this season, which is kind of funny. In his 5 years in his career, he's had 14 carries. So, definitely funny there, but he's very versatile. He can go in, he can go deep, and he can run a quick in route across the middle. He can go deep. He can make a comeback route, a screen. I've always talked about something special about receivers is that some of them can turn plays that are 3-4 yard pass into about 15-16 yard plays, and there's only a select handful of them in the league. Adams is one of them. Stephon Diggs is one of them. Cooper Kupp you can add to the list. Tyreek Hill is definitely one of them. Guys who can make a play where it might be a 5-yard comeback route and they turn into a 10-12 yard burst, and instead of you're talking about a 3rd down and 5, you're talking about a fresh set of downs and you're moving the chains. And Cooper Kupp, not only did he did that throughout the regular season, but he also did it in the postseason. And a guy, too, who's very reliable on 3rd down. And we saw that a lot this year out of Cooper Kupp. Matthew Stafford on 3rd down, who's he looking for? He's looking for Kupp. He's looking for Kupp across the middle. You need 5-6 yards plus. You look for Kupp. His speed, his moves, his footing, very good player. Very good. And an historic season without a doubt. And I know the big storylines for the Rams are this and that and Odell Beckham and all this. And I feel like, in a way, Cooper Kupp's kind of gotten taken out of the mix. But 1,947 yards in the regular season, Super Bowl champion, Offensive Player of the Year, Super Bowl MVP. There might not be another receiver that we see in terms of statistical season in a while. Unless if Cooper Kupp tops Cooper Kupp next season, right? And he's 28 years old. And that's great, and he's getting better. And he's 28 years old. He's getting better. He had a little bit of a down year last year. But now he had a really good year this year, and now it's with Matthew Stafford. And now you got to wonder, and Matthew Stafford can't play forever, right? He can't, And that's why one of the things with Kupp is now that Matthew Stafford's at the helm, you really got to enjoy it because, he's a solid receiver. With Matthew Stafford, he's an insane receiver. So, you look at, Stafford, his age, and Matthew Stafford, I'm pulling it up here, 34 years old. So he doesn't, he's not going to play in the league forever. He probably has about 3 really good years left. Cooper Kupp's 28. He's only getting better. And for the Rams, you should lock this guy up for a very long time because what we saw this season is simply remarkable and something that definitely he can continue to play at a high level. You bring him in the right situation, you give him the right quarterback, and it kind of yet again shows all of us that Jared Goff was the guy holding this team back. And now that you bring in Matthew Stafford, you see how much he impacts the offense, specifically Cooper Kupp. All right, so let's look at some of the numbers here in the regular season. So, and I want to compare it to last year, just to go to show you how much better he was this season. So, this season he had 17 games played, 145 catches, 191 targets, 1,947 yards, average was 13.4 per play, and touchdowns, he had 16 touchdowns this season. So last season, 15 games played, 92 catches, 124 targets, 974 yards, 10.6 was his average, and 3 touchdowns. So this season, better on average, better on touchdowns, better on yards, targets, catches, and all that stuff in games played as well. Now, he played every game. He's played every game this season, too. He played all 21 games of the Rams season, 17 in the regular season, as we all know, 4 in the postseason. And those 1,947 yards is only behind Megatron, who had the most in 2012. That was the season the Lions went 4-12. So had a really good year there in the amount of games. Now, he only played 16 games, I believe, because it was obviously not, you didn't have the one extra, you didn't have the extra week, but still 1,947 yards, second all time, only behind Calvin Johnson for a single season. Now, Cooper Kupp's postseason stats: 4 games played, 33 catches, 42 targets, 478 yards, average was 14.5, and he had 6 touchdowns. So that's 22 total touchdowns on the season. Now, if you look at last season's postseason stats, I know it's tough to say, but in the 2 games they played, he had 4 catches, 9 targets, 78 yards, no touchdowns. Average was almost 20, so that was up there. But no touchdowns, only 78 yards. This season in 4 games, 478 yards, 42 targets, 33 catches, 14.5 was average, 6 touchdowns. He only had 9 targets in 2 games in the 9 targets in 2 games last season in the postseason. I know it's only 2 games, but the fact that this season, 4 games, he had 42 targets, that's 10 targets a game. 9 divided by 2, what's that? Like 6 or about 5, almost 4 to 5-ish. So almost averaging 5-6 more targets than he was last year in the postseason. So 4 games played, 33 catches, 42 targets, 478 yards, average of 14.5, 6 touchdowns. That also helped him to get to the Super Bowl MVP. And his Cooper Kupp combined stats this season: 21 games played, 178 catches, 233 targets. So he got the ball a lot. He got a lot of opportunities. He took advantage of them. Yards was 2,425 yards total on the season. Average was 13.95, and he had 22 touchdowns, 16 in the regular season, 6 in the postseason. And you combine the numbers together, and you get a remarkable season, and you get one of the best stat lines we have ever seen. 2,425 yards combined all season long in 21 games. Really just wild. I mean, really just something that, like I said, is crazy, is wild. And for a guy that in his career has 5,517 regular season yards, 1,947 of those come this year. So a big season for Cooper Kupp, and it shows here. And this is a big part of why the Rams won. And you look at the numbers here, he was first in receptions this year, first in yards, first in touchdowns amongst the rest of the receivers. So a guy who really was the best receiver this season in terms of stats. And in terms of overall skill, I mean, Devontae Adams, guys like that, is definitely up there as well. But you got to now put Cooper Kupp into that conversation. Because after a year like this, you know, after a statistical season like this and the numbers that he put up, just wild. A wild year for the Rams and for Cooper Kupp. And, you know, now you go into the offseason, like I said, with the Rams. This is the big thing. You got to try to bring back as many guys as you can. You know, try to bring back the free agent, try to keep the guys together. And look, he's only 28 years old, so you assume he plays up until what? Average like 35 years old. So you just assume, 35 years old? And that's a good 7 more years left for Cooper Kupp. So a guy who's got only 5 years in and got a really bright future. And I think now it's just showing you that you give him a true receiver, he can really, a true quarterback, he can really explode. Because he was playing under Jared Goff all those years, and we all know Jared Goff's no one special. He's really not a great quarterback at all. Now you put him into a situation with Stafford and all that, and really exploded this season, and we saw that a lot. So Cooper Kupp, historic season officially in the books, and for the NFL, it's officially in the books as well. So kind of just wanted to wrap that up today. Talk about Cooper Kupp and talk about his great season. Sorry, I apologize. I was reading my paper, and it says Knicks recent struggles. And I accidentally spit out terrible because we're probably going to say that a lot with the Knicks. But Cooper Kupp and his season recap officially in the books and his history-making season. And, NFL season's in the books. Now, kind of just to, in terms of the podcast I want to talk about, it's going to be like any other regular season, any other offseason. I'm going to talk a lot about the Jets and the Giants and what their offseason comes. But as we enter the offseason, there is this part of the year is kind of dead right now of what to talk about. It really starts to heat up when we get to, March. But these next couple weeks are kind of dead because once free agency starts, you'll have a ton of stuff. But up until, right now, there's not much to talk about at all in terms of off-season stuff. In terms of football off-season stuff. So, unless of anything, I definitely want to get to the Kyler Murray story and his drama and that drama going on in Arizona, but I definitely want to, there is definitely going to be a lot of, NFL and postseason and off-season rather stuff on the podcast. Just still trying to figure it out like I did last season, where this is kind of the time of the year where it's kind of dead and not a great amount to talk about. So, now, definitely want to get to Kyler Murray and stuff, but that'll kind of put a cap on the 2021-2022 season. Now we look ahead to the offseason, free agency, the draft, training camps, and then the season next year. And that will all be coming up before you know it. So Free agency will be here before you know it, and then the draft, and then so on and so forth. So that will do it for Cooper Kupp and the season recap, and that will kind of do it for my entire Super Bowl week. I talked about it all last week, talked about it yesterday, kind of just closed it out today. So that kind of does it on the NFL season, and now we look ahead towards the offseason. Coming up next, just got done with some football. Coming up next, we're going to get to both basketball teams in New York. One of them got a really nice win last night. One of them continues to embarrass. And one of them should their coach be on the hot seat. I'm going to get to the Nets and their win last night. I'm going to get to the Knicks and their struggles. And should Tom Thibodeau be on the hot seat? And who's really to blame for the Nets? Or who's really to blame for the Knicks' recent struggles? We'll get to that and much more coming up on the BSN Network podcast. All right, so welcome you back here up on the BSN Network podcast here. And as we all know, Nets and the Knicks played yesterday, and it's kind of been a crazy run for both teams. I was just about to say Brooklyn basketball. Same thing for the Nets, but been a crazy run for New York basketball this year. Kind of been a wacky season for New York basketball. Kind of been a year where you've definitely had some ups and you've had a lot of downs. And, the Nets last night snapping an 11-game losing streak finally. First time they've won a game since January 21st, which is crazy to think that it was almost a year. Or not a year. It was almost a month. It felt like a year. It really did. It felt like a long time. Last night, finally watching a win and going to bed victorious was a great feeling for me, and I'm sure a great feeling for many of you Net fans. And, getting up today and doing the show today and wearing the jersey today felt great because it's something that I have not done in a long time. And I always feel like, whenever my teams win, I've always said, whenever my teams win, I'm always in better moods the next day. When my teams lose, you're kind of down in the dumps. I mean, if one team wins and one team loses, you're kind of 50-50 because you're happy, your team won. Like if the Rangers win and the Nets lose, I'm sad the Nets lost, but I'm happy the Rangers win. If both teams win, that's why I'm always so happy whenever all my teams win. Like the perfect ideal situation was if baseball season starts at all, Rangers win, Nets win, Kentucky wins, Kentucky really wouldn't be going on in, April and stuff unless if they get to the final of March Madness, but that would be my ideal situation, is if all my teams win, that's always it. So last night the Nets won, and they finally won, and they did in convincing fashion, 24-point victory, really shut down the Kings in the second half. I mean, the Kings in the second half were awful. They scored what? 19 plus 18, what is that? 33, 37. So the Kings scored 37 points in the second half. In the first half, they scored way more than that. They scored 48 in the first half, 37 in the second half, and it results in, the result we have today, which is a 109-85 loss. I mean, the Nets really shut them down in the second half. And as for the Knicks, like I said, it's kind of been so 50-50 where Nets and Knicks will have nights where they both lose and they both look bad, and then there's nights like last night where the Nets win, look really good. It was fun to watch. They were playing with a lot of energy. And for the Knicks last night, it's like, what the heck is going on with the New York Knicks? So I'm going to start with the Nets first, kind of just give you a little bit of a recap last night on the win, and then I really want to get to the Knicks, because the Nets win, it's nice, it's good. We saw, some really good performances, from Seth Curry and Andre Drummond, both making their debut, both playing well, and it's like, now I really want to get to the Knicks, because their performance was brutal, and it's night in, night out now, it feels like, with the Knicks, where they're just not playing good. And now you kind of got to flick it a little bit on the head coach. So I'll get to that here in just a minute. But to talk about the Nets last night, like I said, watching these games throughout this 11-game losing streak has been awful. It's been brutal. It's been terrible. It's been like every night when you turn on the TV, and especially what's made it worse is the Rangers obviously had the 2-week break. So that made it worse because it's not like I could celebrate a Ranger win even if the Nets lost. It's been just the Nets that have been on for the past 2 weeks since the Rangers were on the All-Star break. So now that the Rangers back tonight, it's even better. Now that the Nets won, it's even, right now it's great. But, watching the Nets have been bad. And something that I've noticed with the Nets the past 11 games, it's been where they don't have much energy. There's not any flow in the offense. It's been a whole lot of just, like, what is this? This is not the Nets. We're losing games. It's like night in and night out, they're going in and they're losing games, and it's like they're not trying. And it's like they're losing games that it just doesn't even seem like they're showing up. And it's like there's so many games that you're losing, you're starting to fall behind, and it's like, It's not even like they're going out there and playing hard. It's not even like they're going out there and doing everything they can to win. It's like they're just going out there lollygagging and they're losing. And that's what it felt like during that 11-game losing streak. But last night, it didn't feel that way. Last night, for the first time in a very long time, for the first time really since January 21st, which was our last win, the Brooklyn Nets finally were playing with a lot of energy. And there was some flow and there was some excitement. And going into that game, like I said, I was pretty optimistic going into last night's game. Was I overly optimistic? No. Because they're 11-game losing streak, and I know sometimes how hard it is to snap a losing streak. I don't care who you have in there. The fact that you lose 11 straight games and have to go out there and win, it feels like winning's impossible sometimes during those losing streaks. It really does. But last night, the Nets came out with a ton of energy. Seth Curry, Andre Drummond making their debuts. It was good to see fans getting into a little bit, right? Team starting to really run with some flow. And like I said a couple days ago, the Nets were the overtime shift that needed somebody to come in and relieve them. And last night, Seth Curry and Andre Drummond came in to relieve the Nets, came in to give the Nets a much, much needed boost. And 32 minutes from Seth Curry, delivered 10 of 18 from the field, 3 of 8 from 3, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 23 points. And Andre Drummond had 24 minutes, went 4 of 7 from the field, did not attempt the 3, which is no surprise, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and had 11 points. So Seth Curry, Andre Drummond delivering 34 points from the start out of the starting lineup. Bruce Brown also had a very good game, 19 points. The other two guys, Patty Mills and Bruce Kessler-Edwards, Mills had 8, and Kessler-Edwards, who continues to struggle a little bit, had 3, went 1 of 6 or 1 of 5 from the field last night. He's been struggling a little bit as well, and you'd assume once everything gets back healthy, his minutes will probably continue to decrease. But the big performances last night were from the starting lineup. 3 of the 5 guys in the starting lineup. Andre Drummond gave us a much-needed boost in the rebounds. 49 rebounds last night. We out-rebounded a team. Kings had 43. We rebounded last night. We passed last night. We dished out some assists. 25 assists last night. 12 from the Kings. Last night was a completely different team. What we were watching last night was a team that was playing with some structure within the offense. Playing within the offense. Playing with the mindset of pass, find open teammates, take good looks. Something that we haven't had all year with James Harden. All year with James Harden has been James Harden dribbles. 4 seconds left. Oh, let me pass it to the corner to Patty Mills. Or let me take this contested 3 from deep. Last night, what we were watching as Net fans was a team that was finally having some structure. Finally, there was a sense of urgency, some sense of energy. Finally, on the offensive end, there was guys moving. There were screens. It wasn't just one guy dribbling for 20 seconds straight and then delivering a last-second three-pointer with 4 seconds left on the shot clock that we've watched for so many painful months now with James Harden. Last night was a sense of relief. Last night was a sense of there's hope, there's optimism. Because Ben Simmons can come. Ben Simmons and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving were not in last night. So Ben Simmons is going to provide a lot more defense. Kevin Durant, we all know his scoring ability, one of the greatest of all time when it comes to scoring. And we know what Kyrie can do on the offensive end in terms of ball handling, assists, getting to the net, finishing, three-point shooting. We all saw it. Last night was just a glimpse of what this team can do. And last night, too, I know I've said last night a lot, but what it showed also was James Harden was the true problem. Not Kyrie, not KD, not all three of them. It was James Harden that was the big problem. And yesterday, Nets Kings, it showed. Because we finally had some flow. We had guys truly coming out and playing well. We had guys that seemed to actually enjoy it. It wasn't like guys were just standing still watching Harden dribble. And as a fan, I truly had fun last night. And as a fan last night, that was a completely different team that we saw. As the Nets get the win 109-85. And it can only get better because you have Drummond and Seth Curry. And I understand this is the Kings. But this is also the Net team that lost to the Kings a couple weeks ago. James Harden's last game. So you could make up the Kings excuse. I get that. They're a team that is 22-37, but we lost to them. And the Kings are a team that I believe have won 3 straight going into this, playing some better basketball. Like also a Kings team that made a boneheaded move to get rid of Tyrese Haliburton. I get that. But when you're in the midst of an 11-game losing streak, I don't care who you're playing. It seems like every team you're playing is the greatest of all time because you play so bad. So last night, the fact that the Nets came out there and played well was really a good sign and really shut down the Kings in the second half. And Seth Curry, Andre Drummond provided a much-needed boost. And now you got 2 games left until the All-Star break. And coming out of the All-Star break, you have the first game against the Celtics on Thursday, February 24th. So you have a week off. You have a game tomorrow, then a game on Thursday. So back-to-back, starting tomorrow at the Garden and at home against the Wizards, which was that is a reschedule of a game that was supposed to be played December 21st, got postponed. So, don't know why, I know these things off the top of my head. I'm just a dork and a nerd when it comes to this stuff. But that's the 2 games coming up. And then February 24th will be coming out of the All-Star break after the week break. And you got to hope then you get Ben Simmons back, who will play his first game, assuming after the All-Star break. Harden and, Drummond, I don't know why I said Harden. Drummond and Seth Curry will still be in. Kevin Durant will either come back, either that game or I assume shortly after, and then Kyrie as well. And you just got to hope that the city gets rid of the mandates. New York City gets rid of the mandates of vaccines because or they get something with the Nets and Kyrie where they can come to an agreement where the city and Kyrie can play home games. Because with this lineup at full strength, you're looking at Kevin Durant, Kyrie, Ben Simmons, Andre Drummond, and Seth Curry. And last night was just a glimpse of what Drummond and Seth Curry can do to this team. Add the other 3 guys, and truly some optimism now. For what was such a dark and poor stretch of games, last night was truly fun to watch. As the Nets get the win 109-85, and they move to 30-27 on the season. And look, we're still far back. There's no doubt about it. We still got a lot of ground to make up. No doubt about that. But you look at, overall, we are the 8th seed, and we are in the play-in right now, which is not what we want. So we just want to get out of the play-in. We're 3.5 games out of the play-in. So we are going to go into the All-Star break in the play-in series. No matter how you put it, we are. So you got to try to get to that 6 seed at least. We're 7 games back of first place, which is crazy. But you hope if we can get it, because we know that team at full strength, they can easily win 7-8 games in a row. So you got to hope that stretch is coming up. So got the win last night. Feels great as a Net fan. Good to see. Now let's go to the other side of town, and that is the New York Knicks. Last night falling to a miserable. I shouldn't say miserable because it's a Thunder team that is 18-39 on the season, but it's a team that's got some young talent, a team that's fighting, and for a Knicks team that's been so bad, can you really be surprised with some of these losses? Last night the Knicks fall in overtime, 127-103 to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and yet again here you kind of find yourself in a situation where. Yet again, you find yourself in the situation where you got a nice win, a couple nights ago, Thursday night, against the Warriors. Got a really nice win against a really good Warriors team, 116-114. Then you lose to the Trailblazers the next day by 9, and then you lose last night by 4 in overtime. And yet again, just as a fan and just as a follower of sports, you see all these Knicks fans questioning Tom Thibodeau. And you know what? I'm right there with you. Because last night, the Knicks now fall to 25-33 on the season. And you look at the standings now, they are 12th in the Eastern Conference. They are 2.5 back from being in the play-in, which is they're not going to be in the play-in most likely. And a team who is now 2-8 in their last 10 and finds himself on a 2-game losing streak off of a really good win against the Warriors. As a Knicks fan, you kind of had to hope that maybe that's the start of something. Then you lay a dud against the Trailblazers. And last night, yet again, you lose to a Thunder team that's very beatable. You should beat a team. The Thunder have not won 20 games this season. I don't care how much young talent you have. You won 18 games this year. Losing to a Thunder team like that is unacceptable. And a team, too, on a big stage, a ton of young players. I mean, you let a 19-year-old guard have a triple-double. I mean, you let a guy who's You let a guy who is 19 years old put up a big-time stat line. Josh Giddey had 39 minutes, 11 of 22 from the field, that's 50%, 75% from 3, took 4 shots, made 3 of them. He didn't make many free throws, went 3 of 6, but rebounding, he had 11 rebounds, 12 assists, and he had 28 points. On the big stage, MSG, talk about home court advantage, and you let a bunch of these young guys beat you. And the reality is the Thunder were the faster team. They were the more energized team. They were the team that, look, yes, they're 18 and 39, but they're young, they got some energy, they got some burst, and the Knicks are kind of slow, they're old, they're not very talented. And last night, yet again, that was on display as they lose 127-103, or 127-123. And the minutes distribution from Tom Thibodeau, yet again, is just mind-boggling. And I'm not even a Knicks fan, but it frustrates me because I'm a fan. I like young talent. I like watching young talent. It's fun to see the future of any league. I'll say it in any sport. Baseball, it's always fun to see the young guys play. It's always fun to see young guys play, which is why the Thunder, like I said, the reason why I was kind of maybe saying, oh, you lost by a bunch of these young guys, because MSG, big stage, big crowd, it's tough for a young player to go in there, I don't care who you are, and win in that environment. MSG, in the big stage, big city, for an Oklahoma City Thunder team, a small organization, and not maybe the biggest name players, to go in there and play like they did is really phenomenal on Josh Giddey's and company and the rest of the Thunder team to do. I don't care how good or bad the Knicks are. Going on the road, beating, Knicks at MSG, I guess maybe it's not the same it once was, but still, it's a big environment, it's a hostile environment, it's still, the Mecca, it's Madison Square Garden, it's the Knicks, it's one of the biggest organizations in sports, it's New York City. Going and beating them for a young team like the Thunder is very good for the Thunder, but even more embarrassing for the Knicks. And like I said, the minutes distribution is terrible. And like I said, just as a fan, back to my point with the young guys, I always like watching young guys play. It's always fun. You look at the quarterbacks in the AFC, I know I mentioned this a lot, and I'll probably continue to mention a lot throughout the offseason, so just get used to it. But they're fun. It's exciting. There's a lot of potential. And you want to see that potential on display. And what Tom Thibodeau has done is pretty much take all the young guys and just dig them on the bench and say, throw them on the bench. I don't want to see you. Get out of here. Let me just read you the minutes last night. From Obi Toppin, second-year player, Emmanuel Quickley, second-year player, and Cam Reddish, I can't wrap my mind around. You traded for him. You traded away assets. I know you only traded away Kevin Knox, who, by the way, never got minutes anyway. He stunk, though, so you can't blame Tom Thibodeau on that. He was terrible. When he even got minutes, he was awful. He was a bust. I don't even know how he's doing in Atlanta. I haven't even really heard of his name. You went out and traded for Cam Reddish. Last night, he gets 8 minutes. Scored 2 points. Took 2 shots. Had 1 foul. Scored 2 points in 8 minutes. Why in the world did the Knicks trade for this guy if night in and night out you're going to give him 8 to 12 minutes? Obi Toppin, 8th overall pick last year in the draft. Got a ton of talent, going to the dunk contest, athleticism's through the roof. 8 minutes. 3 of 7 from the field, 2 rebounds, 7 points. And no, he wasn't great from 3, but that's because that's who he is. He's not a great 3-point shooter. That's why he's in a dunk contest. He's athletic. He gets to the rim. He makes these nice plays. He can get back on defense. He could hit 3 here and there. He could play defense. But he's not a sharpshooter. He's not Stephen Curry. 8 minutes. For a guy with that much talent, to keep him on the bench like that, mind-boggling to me. And an Emmanuel Quickley, who was awful last night, don't get me wrong. Was terrible, was brutal. Didn't make a single shot. And I get that. He was awful. But still only had 14 minutes. And he was awful, terrible. Don't get me wrong about that. I mean, 0 for 7 from the field, 0 for 5 from 3, 5 assists, 2 fouls, no points. But there have also been moments this season where he's played well and he doesn't give him the minutes either. But the main 2 guys that really frustrates me last night, I'm not even a Knicks fan, but just not, just not maximizing the talent is Obi Toppin and Cam Reddish. Like, why in the world did you go out? I mean, I shouldn't even say frustrates me because it's actually I'm actually laughing. I enjoy this. It's funny. It's funny to see the Knicks mess this stuff up. The most minutes that Cam Reddish got was 19 minutes. That was against the Golden State Warriors. In that game, he scored 12 points. So just to give you an example, his career, he averages 10.7 points per game. In the one game where he played 19 minutes, he put up 12 points. So it was above his career average. It just shows you that when he's out there, that was against a very good Warriors team when they got the 116-114 win on Thursday. It just shows you when he's out there, he can make a big difference. They traded for him. They traded for him for a reason. He's a young talent. He's got a bright future. He's 22 years old. He's only in his 4th season. He hasn't really reached his peak. You bring him into, the right situation, maybe he can. And in 8 games with the Knicks, he's averaging 11 minutes, in which this year with the Hawks, he was averaging 23. He's only averaging about 3 shots a game. He's only averaging 5 points with the Knicks. So he's playing an average of 11 minutes a night and averaging 5 points with the Knicks. This season for the Hawks, in 34 games, he averages 23 minutes and 11 points. So they're not playing Reddish either. And they didn't play Obi Toppin much all last year, and they didn't play him again much this season. Right now, Tom Thibodeau should be on a hot seat. It shouldn't be it shouldn't be on fire completely, but it should really be warm right now. Because what he's doing in terms of these minutes distributions and what he's doing where they've got young guys and they went out and traded Cam Reddish, and the fact that he's not giving them minutes is mind-boggling. And look, I know he's a big guy of, you got to prove it in practice. Great, good, prove it in practice. If they're not proven in practice, you're not going to play him. Get rid of him then. It seems all Thibodeau wants to do is, go play Julius Randle 45 minutes every night and see how it works out for you. Julius Randle last night, by the way, I know he had a triple-double. I get that. But he only went 1 of 5 from 3. He also had 6 fouls. I mean, come on, it wasn't like he had a great, flawless game. He was off. He went 11 of 25 from field. He had 6 fouls, 1 of 5 from 3. I know he had a lot of rebounds, assists, and points, but 45 minutes for that? Really? And you give 8 minutes to Obi Toppin and Cam Reddish, who, by the way, you just traded for Cam Reddish a couple weeks ago. Tom Thibodeau, this is on you. This is on Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau needs to be better with minutes. He doesn't give them to the young guys. He continues to not give them to them. That was one of my concerns last year with him. And yet again this season, it's coming alive yet again. Obi Toppin and Cam Reddish combined for 16 minutes. Can somebody ask why? Can he give you an explanation? To the Knicks fans out there, another rough season, another frustrating one. And I don't know why he's not giving them minutes. But you could stand out there and say, Julius Randle did all this and that. But yeah, Kemba Walker can get 26 minutes in play. Doesn't make sense to me. And Alec Burks gets 27 minutes off the bench, and he went 3 of 11 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3. So, Knicks lose again last night. They continue to disappoint. They continue to play bad brand of basketball. And yet again, as a Knicks fan, you find yourself, if you're a Knicks fan today, you find yourself yet again in a situation where you're questioning the head coach, you're questioning the front office, and you're truly questioning the talent on this team. Because obviously the talent that's getting the big amount of minutes isn't doing enough. And last night at home against a Thunder team who has won 18 games this year, to lose like that, unacceptable if you're the New York Knicks. And Tom Thibodeau definitely should be on the hot seat. And that's Knicks tomorrow night at the Garden, which I got to admit, and maybe this is just me as a Net fan. I know I've talked about it a lot where the Net-Knick rivalry is a lot of fun, but I feel like I'm not a huge fan of it anymore. Because the Knicks fans hate us, and if they would to win tomorrow night, not only did I just blow up the Knicks right now and talk very highly about the Nets, but they would troll. They would completely troll. So that's kind of my thing. Like, the Net-Knick rivalry before Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and, Fat James Harden for the time he was here, before this, it was a lot more fun because both teams stunk. And it was like, no matter who won, it was like, we both stink. Now it's like, now with the Nets, building a super team and going for a championship, and the Knicks beat us, you're never going to hear the end of it. You're never going to hear the end of it. So, it's definitely interesting. But Knicks got the Nets tomorrow night. And then after that, they have 2 games. Nets-Knicks tomorrow night at the Garden. Knicks, that will be it for them for the All-Star until the All-Star break. Then they'll resume Friday, February 25th which will be against the Heat at home and in the Sixers. So they got a little bit of a homestand here. So 2 games that won't be easy coming out of the All-Star break either. So definitely a tough stretch for the Knicks, and they'll be back in action tomorrow against the Nets at the Garden. Alrighty, so that's what I got for the Nets and the Knicks updates. Just brutal. Nets finally get a win, play well, showed a lot of positives, and the Knicks were terrible. So definitely not where not New York basketball right now is, definitely not consistent, because even with the Nets winning last night, Knicks still found a way to disappoint. Alrighty here, so let's get into the New York sports update and finish off the podcast here today. As for the NBA, we got a couple games on tonight. You got the Hawks, Cavs, I'll give the Hawks to win. Celtics, Sixers, I'll give Celtics to win. Heat, Mavericks, give me the Heat. Grizzlies, Pelicans, give me the Grizzlies. Timberwolves, Hornets, give me the Timberwolves. Bucks, Pacers, I'll take the Bucks. And Suns, Clippers, give me the Suns. Good amount of college basketball games on tonight. A couple big ones. You got Michigan State, Penn State. I'll give Michigan State the win. Texas, Oklahoma, give me Texas. Duke, Wake Forest, I'll take Duke. Villanova, Providence, I'll take Villanova. Ohio State, Minnesota, give me Ohio State. Missouri, Arkansas, I'll take Arkansas. Indiana, Wisconsin, I'll take Wisconsin. And Wyoming, New Mexico, give me Wyoming. Big game on tonight, Kentucky versus Tennessee. Kentucky comes into this game 21-4. They are the 4th-ranked team in the nation. Tennessee comes into this game 18-6. They are the 16th ranked team in the nation. Tennessee is a 1.5-point favorite going into this. The over-under is set at 140. This game goes on tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. This will follow the Duke-Wake Forest game. And, Thompson Bowling Arena in Knoxville. And, look, I'm going to roll with Kentucky here. All right, I'm pumped up for this game. This is a big game, huge game tonight. You get a win, truly can be considered for a 1 seed in the tournament. So big game tonight. Give me Kentucky, rolling with Big Blue Nation, and we'll see how it all goes. As for hockey, we got the Blues Senators. I'll give Blues the win. Penguins Flyers, give me the Penguins. Islanders, Sabres, I'll take the Islanders. Lightning, Devils, give me the Lightning. Predators, Capitals, I'll take the Predators. Flames, Blue Jackets, I'll take the Flames. Avalanche, Stars, give me the Avalanche. And Oilers, Kings, I'll take the Oilers. Rangers are back in action tonight for the first time in 2 weeks. Rangers are 30-13-4 coming into this game. Bruins are 27-16-3. The over-under is set at 5.5. This game is on tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. You can find it on MSG. Back at the Garden, 83% of people think the Rangers will win. I think the Rangers, it might be a little rusty to start, just given that this is their first game in 2 weeks. But I think they are going to also come. I think there's a good chance, kind of one of two things that could happen. They either come out super rusty, or they come out with a lot of energy, given that this is the first time playing in a while. Feels like this is like coming out of the off season. So I'm going to give the Nets the win, or the Rangers the win, and hopefully I'm right. As for fantasy basketball, I'm currently losing 271-154. Today I've got going Darius Garland, Buddy Hield, Brandon Ingram, Desmond Bane, Kelly Oubre Jr., Ja Morant, Miles Bridges, and Tyrese Maxey. Ja Morant is questionable for Tuesday's game with ankle soreness. And John Collins is still out with a strained right foot. By the way, the Knicks, just looking at the fantasy lineup, didn't even bring this up. Knicks lost to the Thunder without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So it's not even like they had Alexander out there, who's by far their best player. So, really just a bad situation for the Knicks. And for the Nets, they got a win, and I'm happy about it. And hopefully tomorrow night we take care of business against the lousy Knicks right now. But yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it for the podcast today. I was trying to think what I was going to talk about tomorrow. I know there's some stuff, Jack Eichel, I was thinking about getting into. Maybe if anything goes on in the world of hockey tonight. Get to a lot I could get to. There's definitely a lot of topics. Kind of just want to go on the MLB lockout like a rant. Kind of just want to go on a rant. Not even talk about an update or anything like that. I feel like just going on a rant now the football season's over and it's officially like time for baseball to step up to the plate and do something. I know I've talked a lot about the updates, but kind of just want to do like a 20-minute rant one of these days. Maybe I could just do that tomorrow because it's just so frustrating. Like, where both sides just cannot come to an agreement. So we'll see how it goes. That will do it, though, for today. About a 54, 55-minute video, so right in the range where I wanted it to. And, yeah, that'll do it. As always, I'll see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.